I was hinting at this being a special good vibe all episode long. I did know that this was coming, but you had me fooled with the poop story. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Good Vibes FC. I'm Sam coming to you from the Women's Game Satellite Office, where I have to speak in a little bit of hushed tones this week in London.
I could kind of tell that you were like a little less loud.
It's my auntie voice.
Oh, I love it. Okay, well, I'm Becky Sovereign. I can scream. I'm coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Good Vibes FC is presented by our good friends over at Olipop. Use code TWG20 for 20% off at drinkolipop.com. Today on the podcast, we're recapping another jam-packed soccer weekend. We're getting into the U.S. Women's National Team roster that just dropped, plus all of the NWSL heroics from this past weekend. Then we'll talk Chelsea dominance at the FA Cup final. And finally, some info on the major international club play happening this week with CONCACAF Champions Cup and the Champions League final. We also have a really special good vibe coming to us at the end of the show, so you're going to want to stick around. Plus, some exciting news right now. I am going to be hosting a live show in Vermont ahead of Vermont Green's Women's Week, which I am coaching. The show is on Friday, June 6th at Higher Ground. Tickets are available now. We'll put a link in the show notes, so grab tickets before they sell out. And then the team that I'm coaching is playing Wednesday, June 11th and Saturday, June 14th at Virtue Field at UVM. I am really, really excited for the whole week, Becky. And I'm so happy that this live show is going to happen. We have iconic women's soccer journalist and fellow Vermonter Meg Linehan joining us, along with lots of other Vermonty guests. It's going to be so fun. So please come and join us if you're able to.
Sam, it's like a whole week thing now. You just made this a whole party.
I made it a whole party. I was literally just like, I want to do my work in Vermont. And the women's game was like, okay, let's
Yes,
do it.
we will do that.
I know. Reba, what's going on in your world?
June 3rd, the U.S. Women's National Team plays Jamaica in my hometown of St. Louis at Energizer Park. It's my retirement ceremony, like the pregame thing. I'm also going to be broadcasting, but that's a side note. And so,
Oh my gosh.
I know it's going to be a jam-packed day for me. U.S.
Are
soccer,
we so busy, by the way?
I mean, kind of like in clumps, and then
In
there's like
clumps.
nothing, and then clumps, which I kind of like, but okay. So U.S. Soccer reached out to me and they're like, hey, we would like to do something to commemorate your retirement. And we were thinking a bobblehead. And I was like, sure, why not?
So,
And
Becky.
So here is my Becky Sauerbrunn bobblehead. It actually
God.
it's not a great, the hair's on point.
The hair's on point. Is that real hair?
No, of course, that'd be so weird.
Is it like plastic hair?
Yeah.
I was hoping it was going to be like My Little Pony Barbie hair.
Oh, that would be interesting. Well, we'll send notes to them for the next.
And it would like bobble in the breeze.
Commemorative bobblehead.
Like a real ponytail?
Yeah, it's got a fishtail braid and everything. So
No way.
Yeah, the first 2,000 fans that show up at Energizer Park are going to be gifted one of these little guys. I think they're kind of exclusive. I don't know, but little shout out to my retirement, to U.S. Soccer, to my bobblehead.
Well, I was going to threaten to be the very first fan showing up at Energizer Park on June 3rd at the stadium to make sure that I would get one. But I do think that there's one maybe waiting for me in the mail from U.S. Soccer for when I get home.
Oh, look at you.
And it will be behind me on my shelf when I return to my headquarters studio.
I doubt that you're going to display. If you won't even wear my scarf, you're not going to display my bobblehead.
Stop it.
Let's be honest.
I need you to stop talking about this. It was the worst moment of my life.
Okay, well, how about happier news? How's London?
London is so great. I am here spending time with my sisters, and my nephew. And it's amazing. And I love him so much. And I'm like practicing, baby stuff like burping and bouncing. Like he really likes to bounce on this little ball and changing diapers.
How's that going?
It's going fine. I did one and Christy was like, you're kind of a natural. And I was like, I guess I used to babysit. So I guess I've changed a diaper before in my life. I mean, it's pretty wild, Becky. It's pretty wild. He's a human. He's a little human man.
Yeah. And to watch your sister being a mom, that's got to be kind of crazy too.
Yeah. It's really crazy. It's really fun. And it the days go by like that. My parents texted us and they were like, can you guys talk to us? Can we have some pictures and videos? And I'm just the days just fly by. I'm cooking and cleaning and helping and we're chit-chatting and we We've been watching some Summer House together. It's been incredible. I
Oh,
really
I
can't
love that for you
complain. I
guys.
know. It's so much fun. I'm obsessed and I'm so lucky I'm here. I'm here for like a whole nother almost week.
Oh, I'm sure Christy and Sam are so appreciative, but I also think that's so great for you to get to spend time with little man.
I know. It's really amazing. I am like obsessed with him and I'm obsessed with being an aunt. And I think it's just like going to be my whole personality now.
Here we go.
Here we go. All right. So, personal things aside, before we get into the NWSL headlines from this past weekend, there is U.S. Women's National Team news to go over, Becky. The roster for the upcoming games against China and Jamaica has dropped. Here's who we're going to see. In goal, we've got Fallon Joyce, Mandy McGlynn, and Seattle Reigns' Claudia Dickey. At the back, we have Carrie Abello from the Orlando Pride with her first call-in, plus Crystal Dunn, Emily Fox, Naomi Girma is back, Tara McKeown, Avery Patterson, Emily Sams, and Emily Sonnet. In the midfield, it's Sam Coffey, Lily Johannes, Lindsay Heaps, Claire Hutton, Olivia Moultrie, and for the first time ever, Kansas City's Selly Queen, Lo'eau LaBonta. And up top, it's TWG's own Lynn Biondolo, Michelle Cooper, Kat Macario, Emma Sears, Ali Setnor, Giselle Thompson, and Alyssa Thompson. Becky, this is our Olipop Gut Check of the Week, brought to us by our great friends at Olipop. Give us your initial gut reaction to the U.S. Women's National Team roster for the upcoming camp.
Did you pack one
No.
to get through customs?
Sadly, I am without Sans Olipop this week in London.
Oh, I'm so sad for you. I'll just take.
You'll have to drink two.
Yes. Okay. Gut check. First, I have to highlight Lo'eau LaBonta. As someone who has played with her for many, many years, it's really cool for me to see her evolve into the player and the leader that she's become, especially for Kansas City. And she's had some seriously dominant seasons there. And so it's really great to see players rewarded for their league play. And it's interesting because she's coming into this camp as one of the oldest, if not the oldest player on the roster. And she gave me so much crap about being one of the oldest players on every single team that I've played on, calling me mom in this like little whiny kid voice. And oh, how the tables have turned, low.
Oh my gosh. I know. I'm wondering now that you're pointing this out, she must be the oldest. And I'm wondering if we'll see like a Grandma Sally, if she'll like turn it back on herself and recognize it herself.
I would love that. I think that'd be so perfectly low. For sure. But I want to get like the search for a goalkeeper and outside back in that player pool. I think Emma has talked about it a lot. And I think it's really great having Claudia Dickey and Carrie Abello. Emma has talked about finding depth in the goalkeeper and outside back position. And it's just, again, like Low, a great chance and a great opportunity for them. But it's also awesome to see players that are performing well in the league to get these call-ups.
Exactly, Becky. I totally agree. I think this roster is a clear signal from Emma that she's paying attention to NWSL form. And I have always thought that that's great. I really like seeing players get rewarded for doing well in the league. And I think that Lowe and Carrie Abello especially have been good, not just this season for their club teams, but last season too. And Becky, I know that you mentioned when we were talking about your bobbleheads that you're also kind of heading back into camp. You're going to broadcast and you're going to have your retirement ceremony. How are you feeling about getting back in there with US Soccer?
I feel good. I mean, we've always talked about you kind of miss the team environment, and the broadcast team is now kind of my new team. So it's kind of fun. I'm going back into camp. I'm in a roster adjacent to the USWNT. But it's great. I'm looking forward to it. And it's fun to be around these players and to get like a sneak peek behind the scenes of like how's it going, getting these interviews and just seeing how it's going. So I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun time.
Well, Becky, you said that the broadcast team is your team now, but like I want to be your team now.
Well, Sam, you know what I'm gonna say, don't you?
That I should have taken your scarf?
Yeah. That you maybe should have worn my jersey, worn my scarf, displayed the scarf, display my bobblehead.
I need to go. Let's get into the NWSL. Let's change the subject because I need to escape this conversation. I do want to start with an update on Savy King, Angel City defender who collapsed last weekend during a game. Earlier last week, Angel City shared that Savy had undergone surgery to treat a heart abnormality and that the procedure was a success. On Sunday, we heard from Savy herself in an Instagram post. She thanked friends, family, and the Angel City medical staff, who she credits with saving her life. Savy was released from the hospital and says she's looking forward to getting back out on the field. There was a lot of criticism, though, Becky, from coaches, fans, players, the media, and the NWSL Players Association last week about why that game continued after Savy had this emergency situation. Becky, we did touch on this last week, but I just want to know like where you're seeing things stand in the aftermath of what happened with Savy.
Yeah, I think it's basically a no-brainer. And then I think you've had Megan Burke, who's the executive director of the NWSL Players Association. She was on the podcast Attacking Third discussing this from the perspective of what the players need. And
Yeah.
she started with praising the on-field medical
Yeah.
response, saying how quickly and competently they sprung into action. But she also called for change within the league's protocol. She said, quote, "We are talking about life-saving measures. The humane decision is to stop play. It's no longer about soccer anymore." And before last Friday's games, the NWSL did state that they believe they made a mistake in not ending the game and that going forward, any game with a similar incident would be abandoned. I guess my question is, it's like, shouldn't we have kind of already known that? Like, there's, like, we talked about this last week, Sam, like the difference between an injury and something that needs life saving attention. And so I guess I'm still a little surprised that the game continued, but I'm glad to see this response from the league and from Jessica Berman about, yes, we were wrong. We're going to change these protocols.
Yeah, and I think that the NWSLPA, I feel so grateful that the players have such a robust union now. I think that, like, thinking back to years ago when our union wasn't as strong or even when it, like, didn't really exist, something like this, God forbid, could have happened. And I don't think that we would have been organized enough to call for this kind of a protocol change. And so I really feel grateful on behalf of the players to people like Megan Burke and to all the people and players who have made the Players Association so strong, because it like takes organization and like collective action to call for better from the league. And I think that's exactly what happened here. So with such a horrible situation, I'm grateful that it has worked out the way it has and that we're in a position to create change. Angel City did lose their game against Bay this past weekend, and what I imagine was like another really difficult and really emotional game. Bay's goal scorers were Penelope Hawking and Caroline Conti. Kristen Press got her first start of the season for Angel City, but I like can't imagine anyone at Angel City was feeling 100% like focused, even 100% physically after having such a horrible week knowing their teammate Savy was in the hospital.
Yeah, the emotional and psychological toll of seeing one of your friends and teammates in that position, I think weighs really heavy. And it's not just something that people can just get over. I think it hits people differently at different times and it takes
Yeah.
different varying lengths of time to like process. And that stress and worry manifests itself in physical ways as well as mental. So I
Yeah.
think it's a big ask to ask Angel City to bounce back for a game in just a week's time.
Yeah.
And I got to say, though, like the love that they showed for Savvy, the togetherness, the bond, to me, it does not matter that they lost to Bay this week. They showed a lot of strength and resilience this week that's so much bigger than soccer. And that goes not just for the players, but the staff, like all the
Yeah.
people in the Angel City community.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just showing such resilience through this time. And obviously, as always, we're just sending like strength and love to the whole team, especially to Savvy. Elsewhere in the league, Becky, I also kind of feel like it was like a very heroic week. Almost every game had like a singular hero that like stepped up really big for their team. First up is Kimmy Ascanio of San Diego, who scored the lone goal in this game. This is her third goal in the last 4 games. She's only 17 years old, so she helped secure 3 points for the Wave, who now find themselves in second place.
Wow.
I'm like so blown away by San
Yeah.
Diego, so blown away by Kimmy Ascanio. She's been a key part of this Wave offense alongside Delphine Cascarino and Gia Corley. I've loved watching this team play. This is their third road win in a row. Becky, what have you seen from San Diego that's been making such a huge difference from last year's 10th place finish?
I feel like San Diego looks so committed going forward with the ball, and you've got individual talent, like with players like Delphine Cascarino, who can just create so much with the ball at her feet. And then the midfield is showing the savviness to set their attackers up for chances. And then Escanio just taking her chances well. That game, the outside of the right foot
I know.
finish,
What?
that was class. And then she hit the crossbar later in the game. So she could have made it 4 goals in 4 games. And so I think you need big players to step up at different points in the season. And San Diego has players that are doing that.
For sure. San Diego is, like, blowing me away. Like, I really like watching them play, but Gotham was held scoreless for the 3rd game in a row, which feels like Twilight Zone-y to me. I do know that Gotham has a big week this week. They're traveling to Mexico for the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and I actually think that breaking away from, like, your typical week in, week out of NWSL play could be an opportunity for Gotham to kind of, like, bust free of this unfortunate few weeks poor run of form.
Yeah, I think it can. And it can be really nice to play different teams in different leagues and like leave the chaos of the NWSL and get
Yeah.
to kind of refocus on yourselves as opposed to like the opponents because you just don't know these opponents as well. But the thing about the CONCACAF Champions Cup is that Gotham's playing Club America in Monterey in late May. And so I checked my weather app because I did qualifiers in Monterey a couple years ago and it was the hottest environment I've ever played soccer in,
Oh my
and
god.
the
And
temps
you
this
played
week.
in Kansas City for years.
I know, and that's, like, saying something, but the temps in Monterey right now are, like, high 80s and 90s all week. So, you're traveling to Mexico, you're playing a quality opponent at their house in brutal temperatures, like, it could be good to play a different team in a different league, but this could also be I think it's gonna be really tough, and that goes for Portland as well, who's also in Monterey.
I know. It's really difficult. Like I think I see it as a shakeup, and I think for a team like Gotham who's struggling right now, it could be the shakeup that they need. But in like on the other hand, it's 2 extra games like that don't count towards NWSL league play. It's there's a midweek game, there's a weekend game, they're traveling. Like it could be a good shakeup and it could be like just another bump in the road. So we'll see what happens. We're going to talk more about the CONCACAF Champions Cup later in the episode. I want to come back to the NWSL and our next hero. It's Temwa Chawinga. She scored the lone goal game winner for Kansas City in their top of the table clash with Orlando. This game was super physical and even unfortunately resulted in some injuries to Alana Cook, to Binya, and Chawinga. They all ended up coming out of the game. Reeves, I feel like this game was like super talked about, like super hyped up. Obviously, these are two of the most talked about teams in the league. They were at the top of the table. Did you feel like this game like lived up to the hype?
So I think that it did and it didn't. It was really tough to see so many injuries, and I'm wishing all those players the best. It was a physical game. I think we expected that. It was also pretty direct, and I kind of expected that, maybe not to that degree. And I think I was expecting more from Orlando playing at home against a big rival in Kansas City. And I'm trying to figure out like what's kind of going on with Orlando. Obviously not as dominant as last season, but still so good. And last week I kind of noticed that Barbara Banda was playing more in the wide channels, going 1v1 in the wide channels, which makes it a little bit more difficult to create your own chances, but she's
Mm-hmm.
so talented that she can do that. And then in this game, she stayed a little bit more central, but didn't see as much of the ball. So to me, I'm wondering if Orlando's trying to figure out how best to supply Banda and what areas of the field best to do that in.
Yeah, I guess I also wonder about this game in particular. Like Kansas City, historically, when I think back to last year, the kind of like running joke was the 5-4 game. Like they would win, but that they would win 5-4. And I wonder if they've just been working on their like spine defense and kind of locking down a team like Orlando who wants to build up through the middle, who wants to build up through to Barbara Banda. And if those two sixes, if the core and the strength of that midfield has helped Kansas City kind of like prevent or what doing Orlando getting to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense and why that Orlando chose to be a little bit more direct, which is always like
Mm.
if you go to a little bit more direct, it's a little more difficult to do it with control. So it makes sense that they felt that midfield was plugged up because of Kansas City's midfield defense, that they would have to do that.
Well, I'm excited to see Orlando try to return to their run of form that they were on last year. I think Orlando is such an exciting team to watch, and they've had some bumps in the road this season, but I think it's always fun to see a team solve for that. So I'll definitely keep my eyes on them. We do need to get into the Spirit Utah game. The hero of this game was up in the air for a while. It was literally the most chaotic game I've seen in a long time. Such chaotic energy, 6 goals, a PK save by Mandy McGlynn. Mandy McGlynn was like, I'm trying to be the hero of this game. But Casey Kruger stole it from her. She subbed on the field. She had an incredible game. She drew the PK that Mandy McGlynn ended up saving. Then she scored the game tying goal in the 12th minute of stoppage time. And this one made me be like, Casey Kruger is like rookies who. Like the rookies are getting all this attention. She's 34 years old. She's a mom, and she came in and she saved this game. She saved a point for the Spirit. I want to talk about Casey Kruger.
Oh, please. I could talk about Casey all day. And this was only her second game back from a knee injury. And I had been kind of
Yeah,
wondering this season, like where she had been. And she shows up in this game, and I'm like,
here she
okay,
is.
here's Casey Kruger taking over the entire game, tilting the field in the Spirit's favor. She was in amazing form. And I'm a huge fan of Casey, always have been. And watching her get up and down the line, like you said, drawing the penalty that could have tied the game and then scoring the goal, like finding herself in the box in a dangerous position. And she really, I agree with you. She was the hero of this game.
Yeah. So Casey Kruger, love seeing this from her. Becky, particularly because I know you love seeing defenders take over games. It's also like making us want to talk about Tara McCown's assist to Casey Kruger. When you talked about Sam Staub's goal for Chicago, and you said that like, what did you say? It was like the defensive fairy godmother was like telling her to like keep going.
The
And
soccer guardian angel.
oh, the soccer guardian angel. Thank you. Defender, fairy godmother, same thing.
I also like
I
her.
feel like that was also who was helping Tara McCown surge forward to get that assist on Casey's goal.
Yeah, it's just another center back thinking like, why not? Why not me? And this game really had everything, but I loved Tara's movement. Like she gets the ball, she plays it, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to make a run forward. And so she gets it back, but then it's that next touch that she takes to
Yeah.
separate just enough near the end line to get that cross off. And the cross was great. Like it's in the air, it gets to Casey's head. And this game, Sam, had absolutely everything. It was the most like quintessential chaos NWSL match. And what's wild is, of course, I nerded out a little bit and I was looking at the XG. And once again, XG is expected
XG.
goals
Yeah,
scored in the match.
someday you'll tell me where you find this mystical
Someday I
stat.
will. But Utah, so there were some stats that said that Utah had under a goal XG and some barely over a goal XG. They scored 3 goals this game. Of course, one was an own goal that the Spirit scored on themselves, but it was basically like Utah was scoring out of nothing, but then DC had over 4. So they had over 4 goals expected in that game. So it's just it makes no sense statistically. The math ain't mathin', but this is NWSL, so I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, Utah like needs well, actually, it sounds like Utah's soccer fairy godmother was helping them.
Oh, very much so. And
Very much so.
like looking at the goals that I think it was Mozingo and Cece Kaiser scored, like those were really good, tough finishes. So I can see why the XG was like, you were not
Oh, they
expected
were
to
like
score that goal.
low
Yeah,
quality chances kind of.
because of all the people that were in the way
Yeah, yeah,
of the
yeah.
shots and they still found.
Low percentage chances.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so it was good to see Utah in this match, in a big match. And if I didn't like Casey as much, I'd be like, "Oh, that sucks for Utah." But man, I mean, it was just a great match.
Yeah, it's such a crazy game. There was one thing I wanted to add when you were talking about Tara McCown because I forgot for a second, and I shouldn't have because I feel like I talk about this all the time. She used to be a forward. So actually seeing her surge ahead and take that touch that you just mentioned is kind of like, yeah, like that's her bread and butter. Like she was doing that for years before she became a center back. And Tara McCown is actually coming on the podcast very soon. So everybody keep your eyes peeled for that. I was also so excited to see Croy Bethune make her first start back in this game after she was out for about 8 months with that knee injury. And Hal Hirschfeld also made her return from that ankle injury that we saw in week 1. I will never get that image out of my mind of Hal Hirschfeld rolling her ankle. So I feel like the Spirit's injury woes are looking up, which is good because the Spirit really haven't been as much a part of the conversation as I would have thought. And Becky, I'm wondering if you think that's purely due to the number of missing players that they've had really up until this week. Is this just like an injury thing for them?
I think it takes time for players to return from injury, and it's not enough to just be medically cleared and deemed healthy. Like these players need the time and the grace to play their way back into form. And that's not an easy thing. For some, it comes really quickly. For others, it can take some time. And if you're out for 8 months, like that is a long time to be away from the chaos of being in a game. You have to remember how to make decisions quickly on the field, how to scan the field, how to technically execute things when so much is happening around you. So I think it just can take some time for these players to get back to what we expect of them.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I'll say about coming back from injury is that your calves burn for like 6 weeks, and it's just, like, so distracting. Like, you just, like, can't like, in training, in a game, like, you're just trying your best to, like, keep up tactically, but you're just, like, the whole time being like, "Well, my calves are on fire."
That's so funny. It was my feet. I was like, my feet are cramping. My feet are out of shape.
Literally. And then you're just, like, trying to focus and you can't because it just, like, hurt your lower limbs are hurting.
Yeah.
Um Okay, really quickly, our remaining heroes, everybody, we have to shout you out. Maddie Darlene, obviously, who once again scored the lone goal, game winner for Seattle in their 1-0 win over Louisville. Then we've got 20-year-old Japanese international Manaka with the brace for North Carolina to beat Chicago 2-0. North Carolina are back, baby. The Portland-Houston game, it was 4-1 Portland. It was kind of difficult for me to just pick out one hero. I'm thinking Sam Coffey, but Becky, as our resident Thorn, I figured you could help me out here.
You can always say Sam Coffey is a hero, and I'd be like, yeah, of course. I mean, she had an
Yeah,
assist
I
and a
mean,
PK. And then I do want to give a shout out to Pietra Torden, who started at the 9 for the Thorns and had just a very stellar opening goal that I think set the tone for the rest of the game. She brought down a kind of a difficult cross. Her back was to the goal. She did a nice little swivel hip to get the ball to her left foot. And it was just a really nice finesse finish to the right of Abby Smith. It was really nice from the rookie.
yeah, Becky, my last question about this game is Abby Smith starting in goal for Houston. Um, it's kind of a big deal. I mean, I'm a huge Jane Campbell fan. She's been the starter for the Dash for a long time. She's been in and out of the national team for a long time. Is Abby Smith taking over? Like, do you think this is like a change for the Dash?
I have no idea, and I have not really seen anything in the media about it, and maybe I'm just not diving deep enough, but it is very interesting because, yeah, Jane has been a mainstay, a cornerstone of that Houston team for years and years and years.
Yeah, I know. I'm really interested to see how that continues to play out. Obviously, not ideal to let in 4 goals as a goalkeeper fighting for a spot, but that's something to definitely keep our eyes on. So many heroes this week. So many heroes in the NWSL. We are going to move on when we get back, but before we do, we have to take a quick break, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, I want to talk about the FA Cup final. So, at a sold-out Wembley Stadium on Sunday, Chelsea beat Man United 3-0 thanks to a heroic performance by Sandy Baltimore. Our American girls had quite the day themselves. Naomi Girma helped the Blues keep the shutout. Kat Macario subbed on to score a goal, becoming, Becky, listen to this, just the 4th American to score a goal in an FA Cup final. Do you know who the other 3 are?
I believe you are one of them,
Mm-hmm.
Carly Lloyd,
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't know who's the 4th.
Christian Pulisic.
Oh, I see. We're going with the men here.
The men, I
I
know.
got it.
The
Okay.
men
Wow.
are, yeah, the men are
In
in
FA
this
Cup
one.
finals. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Cool.
So a very cool stat. And now Kat Macario, incredible. Fallon Tellis-Joyce started in goal for Man United. She couldn't save Sandy Baltimore's PK. Sandy Baltimore, can I just say, such a great addition to this Chelsea squad this year. She also assisted Kat Macario's late header with a beautiful free kick. And then she scored a second for herself as the game like wound down right at the end. It was clearly, I thought, Chelsea's game to win.
So you didn't think that United was in the game really at all? Chelsea was just doing Chelsea things.
It's not that I don't think they were in the game at all. I think that Chelsea becomes dominant the more time that they play. And I do think that that's really noticeable because they're just so deep. Like Chelsea has like literal starters on their bench. It just feels like this it feels like the players that come in off the bench would be starting on another day. And I think that that's true of like Guru Wrighton. I think that's true. Even Sandy Baltimore, the player who I thought was the best player on the field in this game, she scored 2 goals and an assist in a final. She doesn't even start every game for Chelsea. And I think that they just have a bench full of world-class players that when it comes time to make changes, their level doesn't drop at all. And I even think that Man United's head coach, Mark Skinner, could see that. This is, and I'm going to quote what he said to Sky Sports because I think it so clearly backs up what I'm saying. He said, "I love my team. I love their energy, and we have a lot of young players. But if you watch the final, you see the difference. Just look at the substitutes. And I don't mean that against ours, but it's a totally different experience. We need that level of experience and quality in order to really make a difference. I just think that the players you have coming in off the bench for Chelsea are just like far and away better than everybody else's bench.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, when you look at even the NWSL, the teams that have depth in that 12 to 24 roster spots are
Yeah.
the teams that tend to be the most successful. And we know injuries and fatigue and form dips, they happen throughout a season. And there's rotation because you want to keep players fresh. So with so many more games and competitions happening, it does make a lot of sense that the deeper the roster, the further you go.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I actually, before the FA Cup final, I got the chance to speak with both Chelsea head coach Sonia Bonpastor and Chelsea captain Millie Bright. And I spoke to Sonia specifically on what she's noticed coming into the culture of Chelsea as a club. And this is what she said.
When I left my former club, Lyon, to come into Chelsea, I knew it was a big challenge for me individually, but I knew also I was coming into a big club with a lot of ambitions. The women's team is really well supported in this club. I think you can feel that support coming every day into the women's team.
And so I just think that, like, speaking of the support that Chelsea has when it comes to investing in their roster, it is the it is the best in the WSL. I don't think that other clubs are putting that kind of investment into their women's sides. And that's basically what Mark Skinner was alluding to. Like, if a club like United, if a club like Man City really wants to push and compete for the WSL title, to compete to win their own domestic treble, their ownership has to invest more in players and making their rosters deeper. But it's getting even harder because Chelsea has just added another weapon to their investment portfolio. Alexis Ohanian was in attendance at the final with his wife, Serena Williams, and their daughter, Olympia, having just bought a 10% stake in Chelsea's women's team for $26 million. This is the second professional women's team Ohanian and his family invest in, as he, Serena, and their daughter, Olympia, also have a stake in NWSL team Angel City.
So I know nothing about investing. So I just want to qualify that. But I really wish I had enough money to invest in a women's team. So yeah, this seems like a pretty wise investment when it comes to what Chelsea has been doing and what they can do in the future. And Chelsea really is a global brand, so this seems like a real no-brainer.
I know. Alexis actually said in his interview that he thinks that the women's team will be worth $1 billion someday.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I think that that's like so incredible. And I like want people with ownership stakes who believe in that kind of growth for the women's game. Um, I think it's like really, really cool. I think 10% feels like a significant piece that I think he'll have input. And so I'm like really excited about that. I think it's like giving Michelle King vibes, which like I love. Everybody knows I love Michelle King. It's like getting your hands in a few different things and like really wanting to like make a difference and continue to grow the sport. Um, so this was Chelsea and Man United's last game of the season. They have no more games. They're done. So hopefully they can get a little bit of a break before a lot of those players will have to go play in the Euros. There is still a WSL team with one game left to play. That's Arsenal. They're taking on European giants Barcelona this weekend in the Champions League final. And these teams have had really opposite journeys to the end of this tournament. You've got Arsenal, who have climbed back, literally clawed back from difficult losses. They lost their coach, they had really high profile injuries. And literally, like a fairy tale, they have found themselves in the finals of the Champions League for the first time in nearly 20 years. They're playing Barcelona, who've just been playing the most beautiful soccer this whole campaign. Just a few weeks ago, we saw them dismantle Chelsea, the team that we're saying is far and away better than everybody else through and through. Barcelona beat them 8-2 on aggregate in the semifinal. It was just a night and day game. In large part, it was thanks to this really clinical attack led by Aitana Bonmati, the best player in the world. It feels like their strategy is built around just never letting the other team get the ball. And Becky, I know you're an Arsenal fan. I'm not trying to get carried away with by talking about Barcelona. What are
Mhm.
you hoping to see from the Gunners this game? How can they break down this machine that is Barcelona?
I think Arsenal really needs to find that balance between defending smart and attacking when possible. I think if they sit back too much, I think that just works in Barca's favor. And you
Yeah.
need Barcelona to like honor Arsenal's attack, make them have to work back and acknowledge that they can't send so many numbers forward recklessly, like they could get capitalized on. But it's going to be tough, no doubt, for Arsenal. It's Barcelona is fantastic. I do think that Arsenal can do it, though. And speaking of Arsenal, Sammy, I heard you paid Arsenal a little visit this morning. I'm surprised they would let a ex-Man City player in there.
I know. I was surprised too, actually. I was like,
Are
do
you
you
sure?
guys
You're
know?
letting me in?
Do you guys know that I also said on my podcast that I maybe thought Barcelona might win this game? But no, it was very cool being here in London and getting the opportunity to go to Arsenal's training facility and sit down with two of the players who are playing in the Champions League final this weekend. Obviously was a huge honor. And it was really, really exciting. It's like, I think when you work a remote job, anytime you get to like go and do something in person, you like feel like, you like get your little backpack on, you're like going to the office, but like the office is just Arsenal's training facility. So that was really sick. I sat down with Chloe Kelly, which was incredible. So much fun. Chloe's my former teammate at Man City. So we talked about that a little bit. And I sat down with Emily Fox from America. I call her that to her face. I just am like,
Of
Emily Fox
America?
from America, what's up? Like, she's just my favorite. The one thing that really stuck out to me about both of these interviews was just how magical it seems this Champions League run has been so far. And I know I very publicly said that I thought Barcelona had an edge. Arsenal seems really ready for this game, Becky. There was just this look in Foxy's eye. And I was just like, oh, you guys are on a magical run. Like, you're going to win. And I like genuinely was like, I like sensed that and could like feel that. So I'm actually super excited to watch this game. But everybody can see this glint of Emily Fox knows something that we don't know. You can see it on Friday when her interview drops, and on Thursday, Chloe Kelly's interview is dropping. That was also incredible, and I can't wait for everybody to hear them.
Well, and also come and be with us after the game, right
Oh
at the
my
final
God.
whistle. Yeah, Sam, you and me, we're going live on TWG's YouTube channel. You'll be able to call in, ask us your questions, so
Oh
you
my
do not
gosh,
want to
my
miss it.
favorite.
I know this game is on Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern, so we'll be live around 2 p.m. depending on extra time. Oh my gosh, if there's extra time. But yeah, check us out.
I know. I can't wait. Becky, have you like seen all the content we have coming out this week?
Is it just so much?
Yeah, it's like so incredible and amazing, and like I feel really, really excited for everybody to hear from so many amazing people. Speaking of, before we take one more break, we're going to talk really quickly about another international club tournament that we've been getting into here at the women's game. It's the CONCACAF Women's Champions Cup. This is the brand new tournament we chatted a little bit about last week, where clubs from North America, Central America, and the Caribbean all get to compete against one another. We're down to the final four teams. Gotham are playing Club America from Mexico, and then the Portland Thorns are taking on Tigres, also from Mexico. The winners of these semifinals will go on to play in the final on Saturday, May 24th. It's the same day as the Champions League final. They saved all the finals for one day. So speaking of all of our content, we had two players playing in these semifinal games on the show. I chatted with them, Jess Carter from Gotham and Sarah Lubert from Club America. It was really cool to hear more about the experience of playing in this tournament, especially from Sarah, who actually grew up in the Midwest. She played for the Chicago Stars for a while. Then she went to Club America to continue her professional career. Jess Carter's episode came out on Monday. Sarah is out on Wednesday. So please check those out. Get ready for the thrilling finale of this exciting new tournament, which you can watch on Paramount Plus this weekend.
Sam, you are just one busy lady.
I know. I just live, eat, breathe interviews.
And you do it well.
Sammy interview.
Sammy media interview.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Sammy interview and Becky.
Sometimes media.
Becky broadcast.
Oh, it's an alliteration too. Gotta love that.
Sammy interview and Becky broadcast have to take one more quick break, but when we get back, we've got some more big news and an email from Angela, so don't leave us. Welcome back to Good Vibes FC. Now it's time for our Women's Game Weekly Updates, where we cover all the other news that you need to know.
Let's start with Friday's playoff final in France, where Lyonnes defeated their rivals PSG to win their fourth consecutive league crown. This victory comes just as news is broken about major changes ahead for the club, which is owned by American businesswoman Michelle King, who we all love. Some key players will be departing the squad, such as Eugenie Lesemere, Vanessa Gilles, Danielle Van de Donk, and Sophia Horta. The team's coach, Joe Montemiro, will also be leaving. That's a lot of players leaving a very, very good team.
I know it's a lot of significant players leaving, but I think it's like a pretty interesting time for a club like this to rebuild. Like Lyonnes is still so good. They'll have some turnover obviously with this, but I do feel like especially with their loss in Champions League this year, that like maybe like vamping up a little bit, like could be good for them. And that this kind of like rebuilding ramp, whatever, Sam, you know English, period, is already underway. We learned actually just earlier this week that Lyon is no longer just Lyon, but thanks to Michelle Kang and her rebrand, it's now OL Lyonnes, which I think is a play on the word lioness. Now I'm kind of like, are the Spirit rebranding? And we're going to have the Washington Lions in the NWSL.
Oh, sounds fierce. So, speaking of the Women's Super League, Everton fans got some really exciting news last week, and it was announced historic Goodison Park, which is where the men's club has played since 1892, will now be home to the women's club.
I know. So, Becky, I like initially felt kind of conflicted about this news because my understanding was that Goodison Park was going to be demolished because it like wasn't up to par for the men to play in anymore. And so I thought that celebrating giving it to the women as like a hand-me-down, I thought felt weird because Goodison had this whole huge grand farewell, and I was just like, are they doing this as an afterthought? Are they doing this like, this stadium's no longer good enough for the men, but here the women can have it? But I will say that I've like done some research and spoken to some people like really close to Everton, fans of this club and people who have been to the stadium. And I feel like now I actually have a better understanding of how special Goodison Park is, how like much a part of the Everton fans' like life and connection to the club it is. And what I will say is that the women have been playing at Walton Hall Park, a stadium that holds like very few people. And I think that being given Goodison Park, which will receive some upgrades in the meantime, they're not just going to like leave a stadium that was supposed to get demolished and not fix it up at all. The club is making some improvements so that the women can go and play there and have a great experience. I actually think it's a positive thing. The women's club was at the stadium this weekend. They were paying tribute and they're coming home now. They have this new stadium. It's such an integral part of this club's identity. And I think in a time where it feels like so many women's clubs in England are struggling to get any respect, let alone the same respect as the men's teams, it was cool for me to like have this initial reaction, but then kind of learn more about it. And now I feel kind of excited about it.
It's good to also compare like where the women were playing at Walton Hall Park to now being at Goodison. Like,
Yeah.
I know a long time ago when I was in Champions League and we were playing Everton, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, we're going to play at Goodison Park. And no, we played at a different stadium. I don't think it's Walton Park. In fact, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's not. But it was, kind of like you said, sat maybe 2,500 people.
Yeah.
Not the most professional stadium I'd ever played in at the time. But so I think time will tell about, these renovations and everything that they'll do at Goodison. But you're right. I think it is like a gut reaction to say, oh, it's not good enough for the men, but now it's okay for the women. But it does seem like you said, as you work through it and you process it, like it's a really cool historic step up from maybe where they were playing before.
Yeah. And I think I want to I guess, you know me, like I don't want to now have this opinion that's wrong or like outdated or doesn't advocate enough for the women, because I do think that why can't the women play in the new stadium that the Everton men are playing in? Like I'll always ask that question. I don't think that there's any reason why they can't or shouldn't. But I think a step in the right direction, which to me is Everton as a club saying, we love and respect our women's team. We love and respect Goodison Park, and we're proud to continue on this legacy of Goodison Park with our women. I think feels good. I also think it would feel great if they just said, yeah, the women can come to the new stadium too. Like we're one club. We're all professional. We're the same level. We should be playing in the same place. But my hope is that this kind of like, I think what the stadium means to the club is a signal to me that things are moving in the right direction. And so I'm like open to being off about this, but from everybody that I've talked to, it feels like a good thing.
Yeah, and let's continue to hope that it is a good thing, and that the women now playing at Goodison will bring in just even a whole new community of supporters for the women's side.
Totally. People who have this emotional tie to Goodison Park and want to keep going and want to keep the stadium alive. Now they'll go and support the women, and hopefully that adds avid fans to the women's fan base. I want to stick with farewell fakeouts for a second because Becky, March is back. for Brazil. I saw this news and I was like, I'm sorry, what? I like love a fake goodbye. I love a retirement that gets taken back. Becky, you could come out of retirement anytime. Last year, Marta, the 6-time winner of FIFA's World Player of the Year, made headlines when she retired from international play after the Olympics. However, now just over a year later, of course, she's still playing for the Orlando Pride. The 39-year-old is back on Brazil's squad for upcoming friendlies with Japan and Jamaica.
It makes sense. You're having a World Cup in your home country in 27. You are an icon for soccer, for the world, for Brazil, for your team. Like it makes sense that she would have this drive and want to be back for I, you're hosting a World Cup. Like you want to play in it. I mean, if we host in 31, I am going to want to play in the 31 World Cup. It's just natural. So
yeah,
we haven't gotten a lot of details about why she's back, but do we really need her to say anything? Her performances for Orlando, they speak for herself. It's a well-earned call-up. She looks great.
totally.
Go on, Marta, do your thing.
And I'm like the leadership that she brings, like the way that all of those players have so much respect for her. Like I would want her leadership. Like I would want her on my roster, even if she had fallen off on the field, which she hasn't. So I'm like, right now, if she's willing and I'm the coach, I'm calling her in until she turns down the invite.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also feel like this is like the Grateful Dead just like continuing to go on their farewell tour like forever. And then it's just like just like a marketing thing where you're just like, yeah, this is the last one, this is the last one, this is the last one, and everybody keeps coming out to see you and I love it. And I'll buy tickets to the Marta farewell tour forever.
Yeah, I would buy a t-shirt for sure.
Oh yeah, sell me a shirt. Sell me a shirt.
And in our final piece of international news, on Sunday, we got an absolutely thrilling final in Australia when the Central Coast Mariners defeated the Melbourne Victory. This is already being called one of the greatest fairy tales of Australian soccer ever. The Mariners didn't even exist 2 years ago, with the women's team being shelved for 13 years for financial reasons. They came back in such a big way, fighting their way back to this final, which was deadlocked, coming down to a PK shootout that left many in tears. Congrats to the Mariners. What a win.
That is really, really cool. I loved hearing about this. And then we have some major news here on our own shores. 4 NWSL players and 2 USL Super League players have been called into the US U20 national team camp for the CONCACAF U20 championships in Costa Rica. The players who are going in are Chloe Ricketts from the Spirit, Mary Long and Katie Scott from Kansas City Current, Kennedy Fuller from Angel City, who I think has been so incredible this year. And then from the USL Super League, there's Celie Strawn, who plays for Dallas Trinity, and Emma Johnson, who plays for Lexington. The tournament that they're going into is serving as a qualifier for the 2026 U20 World Cup in Poland. Becky, do you have any thoughts on these young players? And do you think that this CONCACAF tournament is something for us to pay attention to?
Yeah, I think if you are really a fan of players like Sophia Wilson or Mal Swanson, Lindsay Heaps, Trinity Rodman, these are all players that have played in youth World Cups and youth qualifying tournaments. And so if you want to know who this next generation of player, what they're about, who they are, where they come from, like these are tournaments that you do want to pay attention to. These are players that you are going to see in the next few years getting call-ups, joining the NWSL, playing for the USL Super League, like doing their thing. So if you want to see what that next crop of player looks like, that next gen, yeah, you pay attention to these tournaments.
Yeah, I actually love that point, Becky. I even think that players like Ali Sentnor were on the last cycle of the U20 team, or maybe it was 2 cycles ago, but I think it was the last cycle. So you're absolutely right to say this is like the next crop. Like these are the players whose names will be on the full team roster in a couple years. So I'm excited about this. I'm excited to see, I'm sure that they're going to qualify, but I think watching the U20 World Cup is like definitely something that I would want to do. Before we move on, we also finally want to congratulate Alex Morgan on becoming an owner of the San Diego Wave. That's the club she captained up until her retirement last year. Alex clearly loves this club so much. She lives in San Diego. So I'm super excited to see how her leadership transfers to the front office. I saw a hilarious video of her, like, they would like give her corporate slang and then she had to like say what it meant. And I was like, it was resonating deep with me because as your resident corporate girly, like I get it.
Yeah, the acronyms are they're wild. Like, I'll hear Zola talking on the phone and I'll be like, "What did you just say?"
Holy moly. Zola's like an executive corporate girly, but a guy.
Yeah,
Like
so yeah.
Zola's been doing the corporate thing for like a way longer than me.
He talks to me and he'll see that I'm, like, glazing
Oh
over
yeah.
because he's using just these abbreviated
Yeah.
slash acronyms. I'm like, "I don't know what C to C means," and he's like, "Oh, consumer to concept." I'm like, "I don't know what that means." So,
I don't know what that
I've
means
stopped
either.
paying attention.
That's not my language.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go over to our inbox. We got an email from Angela in Portland that asks, "Hi Sam, Becky, and Lynn. I love watching the pod every week. As a Thorns fan and season ticket holder, I especially love the weeks when Becky co-hosts.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really miss seeing her, Kling, and Sinky on the pitch. I also love your insight into the goings-on of the NWSL as current and former players. In light of the recent dismissal of Chicago Stars manager Lauren Donaldson after a dismal start for the club this season, and in light of Mike Norris's dismissal last year from the Thorns after a similar start, my questions are these. To what extent is the record of the club a reflection of the management and front office versus a reflection of the players? And also, if a manager is playing the team in positions they are not suited for, what recourse do the players have? Thanks so much. And yes to eating Ritz, salt side down. Bless up, Angela. Angela, what a great question, Becky. I thought that this question was really perfectly suited to Becky, broadcaster.
Oh, why, thank you. This is a fantastic question and something that I've thought a lot about, especially as a player on teams that have gone through these issues. And it really comes down to the front office and having a general manager that works closely with the technical staff. And the technical staff have goals that they have for the season. They have, this is how I want to play. This is the formation. These are the players I need. And then you have GMs that sometimes will sit into meetings to make sure that all those values and tactics are being transferred to the players in a way that they understand and can be applied. And so I think when there's a disconnect, when the players aren't getting the job done on the field, but the GMs and the upper management, they feel like they should be getting it done, then sometimes maybe that's okay. The players, either we don't have the right set of players or the players aren't responding to the coach in a way that is beneficial to what can happen on the field. And sometimes it's the other way around where the tactics, the meetings, they're confusing, they're convoluted. Players can't apply it because they're not really sure how to do it. And then that comes down to, okay, maybe this is a technical staff problem and something that might need to change. And so it's so tough. And I kind of simplified that quite a bit. But that's one of those situations where you can kind of tell, like, are the players just not getting it, or is it the staff not giving it to the players in a way where they can execute it properly? Sammy, what you
Yeah.
got?
I think that all made total sense, Becky. And I think that, like, for once, I feel like pretty clearly that Lauren Donaldson wasn't necessarily set up for success here. I think that Chicago got new ownership and then they didn't really make any changes or additions to their roster when their best player is currently not playing because she's on maternity leave. And I this is like no shade to Chicago's roster because I think that there are good players on that team, but I don't necessarily feel that the coach who has now been, parted ways with the club was set up to compete at this level against all of these teams who made great moves, who signed international players, who had a strategy in place to improve in the offseason. I don't know that Chicago did. And I find it disappointing because with such exciting new ownership, and they had that huge game they played at Wrigley last year. And I was like, wow, this is going to be amazing for Chicago. For a team that used to be one of the best teams in the league year after year, I'm really disappointed for them. And I think that the players, I would have hoped to see that with a change in coach, that the performance would improve. And I don't necessarily see that it has. And so I'm pretty bummed for them because in this instance, it doesn't, to me, to go back to your question, Angela, it's like, I think that this is a reflection of maybe the front office not investing enough in the team.
That is such a great point, and I'm so glad that you brought it up, that you're right. Maybe it's not technical staff, maybe it's not players. Sometimes it's just the organization is not giving anybody what they need to get their job done.
And I think I'm also like, I hate to be negative. Like, this is literally making me uncomfortable, but it's like Chicago is still playing at a stadium that's like an hour outside the city. There's no easy way to get there. And when teams get new ownership, I'm like, I think there's an expectation to improve the attractiveness of playing for your club. And I don't think that playing at Chicago is any more attractive than it ever has been. And I think they should put more into it.
Yeah, it's difficult to get to. It's outside of Chicago. Even the men's team left that stadium and they're playing at Soldier Field, I believe.
Yeah, so this one is like disappointing. I think that Chicago's roster is capable of getting results, but I think that I don't know enough about the relationship with Lauren Donaldson or the relationship between the GM and the players or any of that. I just think that the thing missing from Chicago for me right now is like more attentiveness from the ownership, more investment in the roster, especially when your marquee player is out for the season. Um, so I'm rooting for them, and I hope that the players get more.
Always.
Angela, thanks for the question. You made me a little bit uncomfortable, but I am just, I'm out here speaking my truth. Don't forget, everybody, you can write us an email anytime. Challenge us. Send us an email to womensgamemib@menandblazers.com. We're very excited to hear from you. And before we leave you, as always, we have some great good vibes to send out into the world. And I do have a feeling that this is going to be a very special segment this week. So, Becky, what do you have for us?
Okay, so my good vibe. So I was catching up. Zola and I were catching up with one of our friends, Lucas, and he and Zola are childhood friends, like elementary,
Wow.
middle school, high school. Went to UVA together. So that's when I met him, was at UVA. So we were catching up, and he and his wife have a son, James. And he was just telling this hilarious story about James. They're at the Norfolk airport, and James is like 3, so he's, kind of potty trained, but at the point where if he's like, "Daddy, I need to go," it's like, "Oh, it's go time." So he's like, "Daddy, I got to poop." And so Lucas is like, "Okay, let's go." And so they get into the public restroom. James is doing his business. They're just talking. They go to wash their hands, and James asks Lucas, "Where did my poop go?" And Lucas is like, "What do you mean, buddy? Like, we just flushed it down the toilet. It's gone." And James gets like a little bit more distraught and was like, "But where did it go? Put the poop back in my butt." And Lucas is like, "Dude, like what? What are you talking about? We talked about this. When you flush the poop in the toilet, it goes into the pipes and then it goes away. I can't get it back for you." And so James starts freaking out and is just like, "Put the poop back in my butt." And so Lucas is like trying to like console him and is taking him through the Norfolk airport, like just rubbing his back. And he's just like having a tantrum, like screaming, "Put the poop back in my butt." And you know how kids kind of like tire themselves out of a tantrum. And so he's just in Lucas's arms, like just kind of like sobbing and gets really tired and is like, "Put the poop back in my butt." And so my good vibe for this week, Sammy, is that I'm pregnant and I too might have very funny put the poop back in my butt stories sometime soon.
Becky, oh my gosh. What a good vibe. Congratulations.
Thanks. And Sammy, I told you and Lynn a while ago, so I know you guys already know, but yeah, this is for the rest of everybody.
Well, I was hinting at this being a special good vibe all episode long. I did know that this was coming, but you had me fooled with the poop story. You literally had me fooled. I was like, did she change her mind? Is she not going to tell everybody today?
I was crying, laughing so hard when he told the story because I was like, yeah, these are the moments that I've hopefully, if everything goes well, that I will get to experience.
Oh my gosh, Becky. Well, you know what? I hope that you can come to us very soon and you can share with us a very similar put the poop back in my butt story. Um before we let this good vibe moment end, what else can you tell us? Like, can you tell us anything more? Like, you're pregnant. How are you feeling? Are you so excited? When are you due?
I am due in October, and so it just felt kind of like I'm not going to be doing broadcast after a while. I'll be hopefully still doing stuff with you here in the house. But yeah, I'm going to be taking it easy for a little bit coming up here, and just felt like the right time. And you know, all my friends are having babies, so I was like, why not? I'll also have one.
So basically, you're saying that now you, me, and the baby are all going to be on the same team.
Totally. We can be on the same team.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. How are you feeling? Good?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of my pregnant friends and moms, I think they gate kept a lot of stuff from us who have not been pregnant before. And so there are things happening that I just didn't know were going to happen. And so I'm kind of like, why didn't you tell us all about this? But it is a really exciting time. And Zola is so stoked. Like he's been so wonderful. And so yeah, it's good times. I'm still like, what is happening to me? This is wild. This is crazy. I don't know what to expect. I'm scared, but I'm also very excited.
Oh my gosh, Becky. Well, we're so happy for you. I can't wait to get you a little good vibes onesie.
Oh my gosh, please.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. Well, congratulations. My good vibe is also that Becky's pregnant. So we're just leaving everybody with the happiest good vibe ever, along with the funniest story ever. I hope everybody else has just such an amazing week after hearing this incredible, wonderful news, because that's it for this week's episode of Good Vibes. Please make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel so you don't miss the TWG Live after the Champions League final on Saturday. You're also going to want to subscribe to the podcast feed on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, because we've still got coming out this week Sarah Lubert, Chloe Kelly, and Emily Fox. And I would also, again, really, really love it if all my Vermont friends would get their tickets to our live show on June 6th. All right, everybody. That's it for our show today. Congratulations again to Becky.
Thank you. I'm Becky Sauerbrunn.
And I'm Sammy. We love you all so much. Bye-bye.
Love ya.